Joining us this week on the Daily Dose. Hey, I'm telling you right now, we have a very special guest. Our guest has now been coaching boys high school basketball in Colorado for decades. I say that just to make him feel a little bit old. He has
Right.
coached also at the college level. He has been the head coach down at Lewis Palmer High School in Monument, Colorado. I believe I have this right, for 11 seasons now. He has won 5 league titles. He's been to 4 Final Fours, 2 state runner-ups, 2 state championships, including, wait for this, 1 season where his team went undefeated at 28-0. He has an insane 78.7 winning percentage. Oh, holy cow, are you kidding me? And he has sent numerous players to play both collegiately and professionally. I would like to welcome to the Daily Dose Bill Benton. Coach, thanks so much for joining us today on the Dose. I am so glad to have you here today.
I appreciate the invitation. Love being able to sit down and talk.
Coach, that record, that's pretty impressive. And I know as a coach, I know your mentality. You're going, no, next thing. Do you ever stop for a second and just kind of go, no, this is kind of cool?
You know, you hit different milestones here and there. Um, it forces you to look at the numbers. But no, you try not to. I mean, it's honestly, I guess when you sit down and retire, whenever, maybe that's when you sit down and do it. But I think it forces you to look and go, man, I've been blessed. Some pretty amazing athletes, some pretty amazing coaches that have been there on the way, and no, you try not to, because our 24-25 season started, a couple of weeks ago, and that's the important piece right now is we got a new bunch, and how do we get these guys there?
Yeah. Yeah. How do you like your group coming back?
A good group. Um, Graduated six, and some pretty heavy scoring in that six, but we've got some great young kids. Couple of rising juniors that are going to have to take over, and I think probably the biggest piece that we lost outside of some of the scoring is just whose voice is it, who's going to be the leadership. um, where's that rank and file fall, and yes, it's returning starters, and they've done a great job of stepping in, but then you also go, no, don't don't just automatically give that. Go earn your right to have a voice, and they've done that. They've done well with it. It's just I'm looking forward to the summer to be able to see kind of how it all plays out.
Coach, you've won state titles. You've gone to the national tournament at the collegiate level as a coach. You have coached all-star games. You have accomplished a number of amazing things in your career. Where would you rank winning the Daily Dose March Madness Bracket Challenge among your list of accomplishments, and why would it be number 2 at the lowest?
you know, I will say I got a text from my wife. Um, you have a package on the front porch from Clint Daly,
Yeah.
and I said I'll be right there. I left school. I came right home and got it. So it, there's some amazing things that I've been blessed to do. But
Yeah.
I will say, being able to see your name on that number one
Oh man.
makes it number one.
Yeah. Yeah. No question. That's the championship you're going to remember. I mean,
Yes,
the ring,
yes.
the banner, those are adorable.
But,
But the
but
Daily Dose T-shirt, that's really where it's at. Coach, I've known you for years. But can you tell listeners, where did you grow up? Where were you raised? That kind of thing.
grew up in Fort Collins. Um, Father taught at CSU. Um, Mom was a nurse. Grew up in Fort Collins. Went to Fort Collins. Well, I started at Heritage Christian, and then went to Fort Collins High sophomore year, and so yeah, Fort Collins, Colorado native.
You were a Northern Colorado kid. Who were
Yes.
the athletes as a kid, maybe they're pro, maybe they're college, who are the ones that you grew up admiring that you were like, no, I want to pattern my game or that kind of thing. I want to be that guy.
You know, that was the thing is I loved sports. And it's a little bit different when, yes, thanks for reminding me earlier I was old. Um, the one track, one sport player hadn't quite evolved into what it is now.
Yeah, you're right.
So played some football, played some baseball, ran track, played some basketball. So I was a huge Nolan Ryan fan. Loved Ryan Sandberg. Loved some of that because you could only catch the Cubs on cable television out here, and or
B,
the
someday we're
Braves.
going to get
And
a Major League Baseball team. I don't know when it's going to be, but it's going to happen someday.
hopefully soon, man. But so big, had baseball fans, loved Ronnie Lott, loved watching, obviously the Orange Crush. Being a Colorado kid, I was a
Oh
huge
yeah.
Broncos fan, loved, Lyle Alzado, and I mean, still had Craig Morton as I'll be that quarterback someday.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
But
no, you're right.
you know, basketball players, I still I look at that era. And yes, I'm now one of the old heads that know there is only one goat, and it's Jordan. And um, you know, you'd watch some of the Magics and Zeke's, and even as you got a little bit older, Stockton, go
Yeah.
try and play and make that pass. But loved just kind of any and every sport. Um, my wife gives me. I haven't watched the cornhole championships, but if the Rockies keep playing the way they are, that might be all.
You might as well.
You know, thank goodness the NHL hockey and NBA playoffs go
Yeah.
into well into the summer. But no, just I think it was one of those things that you just saw somebody do something and you went out and tried it.
Yeah.
And and I miss, again, old head part of it, but I miss that doesn't happen quite as much anymore. They just it's that, well, I'm going to go do it, instead of going and practicing it.
No, you're right. And I'm gonna go try it in a video game,
Yep,
in my NBA, 2K or whatever, instead of going out on the playground, which is where, our
you
generation
did
was
it.
kind of raised. Yeah. That's just what we did. B, you went to high school at Fort Collins High. What all sports did you play up there?
So played a little bit of football, played ran track, and played basketball.
Track is a
And
different animal.
yes,
It
yes, it is.
Track feels a lot more, and don't get me wrong, there are amazing track athletes. There are athletes that can go do anything, and yet there's a little bit in, especially high school track. It's kind of a social event, and also go do your event here and there.
Yep, it is, and that's probably some of the draw of
Oh
it.
yeah,
But also, I love the individual competition,
yeah,
competing. I mean, it's you. You're going to go run the 100, or you're going for the hurdles or whatever it is. Yes, you're competing against other people, but in that team sense, it really is just you.
yeah.
And I loved that piece of it, but loved the camaraderie, the hanging out under the tent, and going and making it the social event
Oh
too.
yeah. B, you played obviously high school basketball. Now, as a head coach, what's the scouting report say on young Billy Benton? What would you have said about yourself? How would you have scouted yourself?
I told you earlier, defender, complete defensive mindset. Loved the physicality of the game. Um, don't dare me to shoot it, but I wasn't coming down looking to go get mine. We had some players that could score. We had guys that got some shots up. Um, I wanted to go just be physical. I liked getting out, running the floor. Um, you had to enjoy the physical, be ready for the physical game when you were playing against me. I knew my role. I think I played it pretty well, and I embraced the physicality piece.
Now, if you're listening and you haven't seen Coach Benton's teams play, you can literally take the type of player he was. He has transposed that onto his teams. That's the way his teams play. They play tough. They play gritty. They're going to out physically you, and they're going to probably be very, very detail oriented because that's just the way he was. Coach, he ended up playing some college basketball. What was this the experience like of going and being a collegiate athlete?
You know, Loved it. Went up to Casper College, played under John Morrison, um, Adam Morrison's father.
Sure.
Adam Morrison was our ball boy. So obviously some great coaching there.
Yeah.
A junior college, smaller size city in Casper. Loved just that small town. You can go to the mall, you can go wherever, and everybody knows you. But embrace that opportunity. I've had different players talk about, well, I'm going to a small school, or I'm doing this or doing that, and it's no, go make the most of it and enjoy that moment. Whether you're playing junior college, NAIA, D3, all the way to D1, you're playing.
Yes.
And you get the chance to go continue that love and find new bonds and relationships with teammates that last forever. So go make the most of it. I loved the experience.
You bring up so many good points because I really feel like in today's era, and not that it hasn't always been that way to some level, but in today's era, there's really kind of a stigma about I'm going D1. Maybe okay, maybe I'll go junior college because I'm on the bench and I don't really get to play much. So maybe I'll go junior. You're not going anywhere. I don't know what you're talking about, but no, right. You're right. And the difference from that D1, as you well know, more than anyone, to even D2 NAI, it's not much.
Yep.
It's not much. There's some great athletes at all of those levels. Coach, high school, college, either way, who was the best you ever played against?
Grandmama dunked on me.
Oh boy. LJ.
I got embarrassed. But had some run out there a couple of times.
Hey, Larry Johnson was no joke.
No, that whole squad was watching, Rubber Band Man, you get Anderson, all of those guys. That was a fun group. Got to play against Pat Durham and Pickup at CSU quite a few times. Just different times where you're just like, okay, you don't know that that's who they are yet.
Right.
Larry Johnson wasn't Grandmama yet.
No.
He was, but then all of a sudden you turn around and you just go, oh man, now it's kind of bragging rights.
Oh no, now it's a badge of honor. Yeah. Coach, how old were you when you started to realize, hey, I think this coaching thing might be for me?
After 2 years at Casper, kind of knew it was either going to take, some physical challenges, overcoming some physical challenges. Man, I don't know. I moved back to Greeley. My sister was going to school at UNC, went over there, started officiating. Um, knew I wasn't done with the game.
Yeah.
But kind of knew, okay, I think I'm done playing at that level, and really kind of just went, well, so I officiated for a year and really missed, I loved the fact that you can go home. Maybe you could critique yourself a little bit. How did I do as an
Yeah.
official? Obviously, but I how'd you do tonight? Did you win or lose? I didn't.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I was there, and
Right.
I missed that piece of it. So no, I got to figure out a way to go have that impact, have that whatever, what drives you to go compete.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the piece that I missed the most was competition. Just did we win or lose?
Yeah.
And missing that piece of it. So probably I was probably 20, 21
Okay.
when I first started coaching.
You did do some officiating. You did some pretty upper level officiating. I mean,
Did
you reffed a little bit. Do you ever stop and consider what if I had stayed down that path? Have you thought
all
about
the
that?
time,
Do you
all
really?
the time.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, because you just, I don't know. I'd probably still have more hair. I'd probably still, you know, I know I'd have a few less pounds. I mean, being able to get up and down and run still. So there's times that shoot, I I could go do that. I don't know that I want to anymore,
Right.
yeah, every once in a while it'll cross your mind, man. Maybe I'd be doing the round two of the NBA finals right now.
See, yeah, I mean, if you can do it well, there is
Yep.
no ceiling. You can go
Right.
as high as you
Right.
want because there's not enough good ones.
Yep. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
because of your experience as an official, you have done that. Are you cutting your refs any slack at all? Or hey, I know what you've been through in any of that when you're coaching?
I think you're cutting out. Uh,
I understand
I
because
think
my next question was going to be, would they agree with you?
you know I I think that's one thing. I do for fully believe and I try and make sure our guys and our families understand officials aren't going to win or lose a game for you.
You're right.
Um, and when when we play the perfect game, I'll expect them to officiate the perfect game. And I know that sounds all. Yes, I've gotten mad at officials,
Sure.
but I know that's not why we lost tonight,
Right.
because you called it this way, and the 17 turnovers we had in the first half didn't have anything to do with that. So
Well, and it's funny because you and I both had officiated a little bit, and we always stress the same things with our officials. Can you please give effort? Can you please be in the
yep,
right position and rotate
yep.
like you should? If you're doing that and your mechanics are even remotely good, I'll cut you some slack. It's
I
when I
can't
don't
argue
see
with
that.
it.
Yes,
Right,
yes. When I
right.
don't see that, then I go,
Yep,
dude, you're not even getting them down the floor. Like that's when I have a problem.
exactly, exactly. And there's a huge. I do keep that in mind quite a bit. I saw this a lot different than you did, but you're at least in position. You sold it, and the other piece to it is uh, just have a conversation. Tell me what you saw.
No,
I
you're
think
right.
that goes a long ways as well. Tell me what you saw. I didn't think he wasn't set when the kid took off. Okay, at least you told me why you made the call. Uh,
Nothing worse
I,
than
I
getting the hand.
Yep,
Don't
that
talk to
is
me. Don't.
awful. Yep,
Hey, I can make your
yep,
job easier. You can make my job easier. No, you're right.
right, right.
Coach, uh, I don't know this, I don't know if you and I have talked about this. I'm sure we have. Did you have a coach that impacted your life at a young age that you were like, hey, that's kind of the direction I'm going? Did you have that coach in your life?
Burr Adams was my ninth grade coach. Um, I I think that his passion um, for us to compete was something that stuck with me for a long time. Um, it wasn't, I mean, yes, it was still about wins and losses, but it was more just that early understanding of go compete and see where it ends up. And I think that was something that I know the impact he had on me kind of started to fuel that. Um, had Coach Olander as a sophomore at Fort Collins, great coach. Um, again, somebody that just here's how you go compete. Here's how you fine tune your skills. This is and take what you do and help us. I think those two guys were probably the most instrumental and yeah, probably got me to where, hey, I think I could do this. I could enjoy doing this and being around a game.
I'm always fascinated by coaches because I always feel like they either have a coach or two like you do that says, "Hey," or they didn't have any, and they're like, oh, I got to figure something out because I didn't have any good any good coaches." So
Right.
it's usually one or the other. What was your very first official coaching job? Where were you coaching at?
So so my very first coaching job was a homeschool team out of Loveland. Uh, that was the first time I got any kind of like coach on the back of my.
Yeah.
But the first high school I coached at was Highland High School in all.
Okay.
So
Wow. And what level is this?
that was C team,
Like C team?
coached under Scott Dean.
Okay. How did it go? What was it? What was your initial experience?
I loved it. They were a great group. Um, had a couple pretty good shooters, and we were able to get up and down the floor some and fly around. Coach Dean did a great job of mixing up some defenses, and it really got me exposed to different defenses, different things that you could throw at people. But they were a fun bunch. Um, stayed there 2 years and really just had a great group for 2 years. Had freshmen that just came in and played. I think our first year we were a little over 500. We were a couple games over 500. Next year we had some more talented kids come in and whatnot, but it wasn't easy. Loves, excuse me, had some great battles with the rivalry in with Eaton, and so you really got that. All right, this is high school basketball from the other side of it, because the only thing I'd known as a player, and you kind of tune all that stuff out as a player,
Yeah.
but when you're on the other side and you see what it means to each of those communities, and you got to feel it in a different way. And being at Fort Collins High, bigger schools, you have rivalries with Rocky and Pooter, but when you're the only school in a small town, and it's bragging rights for those small towns, and so really loved that experience.
Well, in those small towns, like we talked about, we're in Colorado, and so we have, but those small towns, like you talked about, there's nothing else. They
Right.
That's all they have, and it is
Right.
it is bigger than everything. Yeah, it's so much fun.
It
It's just
is.
it's so much fun. It's different. You have been in a number of schools in the state. whether you're coaching with them or against them or whatever. Is there a specific school, and I know your home school that you coach at right now is pretty good, that you're just like, hey, that environment, it's pretty special? Because I've been to a few schools, small schools, and I'm like, wow, no, they're bringing it here. What is there a school out there in this state that stands out to you?
You mentioned it. I do love our bricks. I love
Oh,
being in that
it's
gym.
special. Yeah, it is.
It feels like a high school gym.
Yep.
But when you look, you know, you go out east having coached at small 1A school, you get a chance to see some of those small gyms. Um, you go out and there's 3 rows of bleachers and they're packed and everything's there, loud as our gym when it
Oh
when it's
yeah.
PR. It, those are some great environments. But I games that where there's just a ton of energy in them. Um, Playing, now you got me thinking. We had been to Grandview a couple of times.
Yeah.
Our Smoky Gym, when
Yeah.
that place is jumping, is a tough place to play at. Um, Weird shaped gyms, um, just where it different openings at different parts of the baseline, and you're like,
No, you're right.
man, I've not ever. We have gone out to Falcon, and that place is so hard to play. It's just so hard to play, and there's. I'm trying to think what I mean. There's so many good spots that. Well, Pueblo East,
Yeah.
before they renovated, and got their new gym. Pueblo South, Pueblo East. It's the same school, same building,
Yeah.
or same gym. Such a hostile environment, and you just go, man, this is going to be a great night. Um, the
Yeah.
place is packed and tight, very tight. Um,
There's something special about going into those places, and there's literally like, hey, there's 15 of us, and it's us against them. We got to
yep,
figure this out.
yep, exactly. And I think it has 2 ways it can go. I mean, sometimes those kind of games, those kind of environments are either going to bond you together, and maybe we didn't even get the W getting out of here, but we got out of here and we're better because of it, or man, we just unraveled and we've got some serious fixing to do, and the majority of times we've bonded together, but I've had 1 or 2 of those where you're just like, well, this is we needed that.
Yeah. No, you always learn about yourself in games like that. Coach, you were coaching at the high school level, you were coaching up north a little bit, but then you went up to the great Northwest. You did some collegiate coaching up there. How do you compare coaching at the high school level to coaching at the collegiate level?
you know i I get asked this quite a bit, and I can't say it's better, I can't say it's worse, it's different. um, you're talking about a 14-year-old coming in as a freshman compared to potentially at times maybe a 19, 20-year-old if they took a mission or sat out somewhere, maybe a 19-year-old freshman. And those 5 years, there's a lot of difference between those two kinds of freshmen. Um, the relationships you build with your players at the coaching or at the collegiate level, you're now having grown man relationships, um, probably weddings, maybe a kid, maybe
Yeah.
life lessons, life relationships, um, that are just different. I get the chance to go do individual workouts today. always coming into my office. We're sitting down and looking at film individually. I've recruited you. And so the relationships are just a little bit different. What you get at the high school level, I think here's who walked through our doors. And for the next 4 years, hopefully we're going to form that relationship. The hard part sometimes about the high school, you maybe did make last year's team. You got cut from this year's team. How's that going? And especially being in the building, how's that going to affect our relationship? What's that going to do? So different dynamics to it. I would say everything you do at the collegiate level is competition. I'm recruiting. It's always on. And I think sometimes at the high school level, yes, I'm still always competing and doing that, but you got kids running track, you got kids playing baseball, you have guys doing different things. And so I don't get to spend as much time and invest in that relationship the same way I would in March and April at the collegiate level.
Sure. Coach, you come back from the collegiate experience and you take a job in Colorado at a small school, at a 1A school, very, very small population in a small town. And we talked a little bit about, those small town environments. You went to one of the smaller schools in the state. How did that how did that feel coming back from college to go to the little school like that?
I think, and that was actually one of the questions on, when I interviewed for the position of why. And I think there's a reality, and this was, between, I've heard Coach Mike Leahy say it, Coach Russ McKinstry said it, wherever you are at, make that the big time. And our head coach at Evergreen, Coach Barbie, said it, of wherever you're at, make it the big time. And we were an NAI school. I think if you want to act like we're a rinky-dink 1A school, then that's probably what you're going to be, is a rinky-dink 1A school. And that doesn't mean we're going to go play a bunch of 5As and prove it. But right. What do you do while you're there? No, we're a 1A school, but we're going to fundraise. We're going to get some gear. We're going to play good competition. We're going to be involved in the summer. And who are we? How do we want to do this? And it was a little bit of a change. It was, going back to long bus rides and doing some scouting when you got to drive out to Deer Trail, and this was before huddle and all that. So
yeah.
If you wanted to see them, get in the car and go
see them, because they're not going to be shown to you. No, 100%. Yep. Coach, you took over the job there at Lewis Palmer High School. Hey, Lewis Palmer has a history of success. It wasn't like you had to revive a bad program, and that's not a slight against you, but that's almost, I've got the added pressure. They expect to be good. How much pressure did you feel when you started at Lewis Palmer, and how did you deal with that pressure?
Well, I thank Coach McKinstry pretty regularly for, leaving after back-to-backs. I mean,
thanks. Good looking out.
Appreciate it, bud. Thanks. And we graduated almost everybody.
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks. I think yes, there's some, but one of the first things I did when I got the job, I took, that group over. We stood in front of the trophy case. I showed them the 2 back-to-backs. I said, you guys are not them. I am not Coach McKinstry, and we don't have to be. We have to play and compete because of some of that legacy that you have to uphold what those players did. But there is no Josh Scott. There is not another, Jordan Scott or Justin Smith. Those guys are gone. Coach McKinstry's gone. This is now the opportunity for us to go be us, do what we do, but understand what it means to put that black and orange jersey on and play that way. If we do that, then that's all people are going to ask for. I think the majority of times we've had the talent that when they work and do put in that time and effort, we've been fortunate enough to be in the mix a lot. So I think I just had to make sure I knew I wasn't Coach McKinstry and didn't try to be him. Take some of the things, obviously, that he did that worked, and don't be dumb and ruin it. But I can't be him. And I think trying to take some of the pressure off our guys that they didn't have to be the guys in front of them.
Coach, you won your first state championship. In 2019, you go 28-0. You win your second championship. I've got to ask you finish that ride. Is it exhilaration or is it relief of we got it done without having that blemish on our record? You went perfect season. What was the feeling after?
I think, I was talking with Coach Babbitt, who is at Mesa Ridge. He was on my staff with me when we won in 19, and we talked about it. And they just went 28-0 2 years ago, and he had the mentality of, "Yup, we're gonna address it, call it what it is." And I think maybe some different situations we did not necessarily address the undefeated piece to it. We addressed playing our style, knowing that not every game was going to be that way. Our margin of victory that year was, our average margin of victory was 37 points. So it wasn't, not that we just walked in the gym and went, we got it won. Right. I think the focus was us playing the right way all the time, so that when we have those moments, the championship game, when it's going to be close, we know that we still only play the right way. And I think that was probably harder. But that group, Clint, was so special. Yeah. Because they never did just walk in the gym and go, "Coach, stop it." I mean, we could break down film, critique stuff, and they were eating it up. They were still getting better from it. And I think that was something that was pretty special about them. So it wasn't exhausting at all because of them. Sure. And how they did it. I didn't have to fight with them to, "No, fellas, come on, we got to really grind this out." "Coach, we won by 40. Yeah. Stop talking." And I didn't. I think you try as a coaching staff to know, okay, what do we nitpick on and what don't we nitpick on? But I would say, one of, in the second championship team, that group, we played Friday night against Palmer Ridge, crosstown, and we won. Didn't play necessarily great. They came in that Saturday morning and probably had our best practice of the season. And that was probably a point where with that group, I went, they might be pretty dangerous too. Um, so each of them had their moments of them kind of taking ownership and saying, no, we're not, we haven't done anything yet. And they actually bought into that and believed it.
What a great lesson for those kids and those players that are out there. Hey, we're good, we're rolling, we're winning, and also we can't wait to get back to work because
Right.
this is just what we do. You want to talk about kids that are going to be successful probably in whatever they do. That's a great example. Coach, I swear I'm not trying to age you. I've already done that, but we are literally, you and I are days apart in age, so I can't age you too much. Uh, you have now been coaching, like I said, for decades. I'm not trying to say you're old because, like I said,
We
we're.
understand.
How has coaching changed? Is coaching just coaching? Are kids just kids? How has it changed for you?
You know, I think, like I said earlier, the man, I got to specialize. I got to specialize. I need a trainer. I need this. I've got, you know, I think there's a lot more voices coaching kids. Um, and it's sometimes I think puts our student athletes in a tough spot. Um, who am I going to listen to? I'm looking up in the stands and I got 17 people telling me 17 different things. Um, and I think some of that comes from the specialization piece to it. I would say the why kids play has changed a lot. Um, shoot, I wanted a scholarship. You wanted a scholarship, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we all did, but I think it's just when you ask kids their why now, I think it's not usually just for love of the game.
yeah,
I just want to go compete. I want to be with my buddies. I want to go do all this. So, and I know that is a very broad statement. There are some great kids just playing to play. But I think that's probably one area that I've seen the most of. Man, if I didn't play well, I didn't shoot it well, I'm probably getting crossed off somebody's list. No, you're not. Just keep go
right.
play. You know, um, that's probably the biggest change. Um, the game itself, obviously dealing with different athletes now.
Yeah,
I mean, I still we grew up with some really good athletes,
yeah.
but now, man, every dude that steps on the floor can go,
Oh yeah,
has some quickness, has some size, has this, and you're talking about 6'4" point guards that are just great athletes, not a 4 or 5 anymore. And so understanding how to put kids in positions to be successful based off of their skill sets, that was something you still had to do even when I first started coaching. But there was a lot of pigeonholing.
yeah.
You
You're
know,
right.
you're the big kid, so you're going to be underneath the hoop.
Right.
Um, and I think that's a positive to the game that no, you can have dudes 6'8", 6'10", do what they do and not have to just be out on, or underneath the hoop. So it's changed. You know, I think the game itself is still very similar. I think um, the athletes are, for the most part, it's still about relationships. Why did I play hard for those coaches? Because they invested in me. And I think it at any level, any any sport, but I think at any level, if you invest in your student athlete, let them know they're more than just a W for you. You're going to get a lot out of them.
Coach, you have sent numerous players onto the collegiate level. You have coached at the collegiate level, so you understand that side of things. But you've always been very, very involved in the recruiting process. I mean, as long as I've known you, you've done this for years. We have seen some massive changes in the past few years with the transfer portal, with the NIL money, and all those kind of things. I know this again, broad statement. Are these changes actually good for kids? Are they helping kids? Or sometimes I feel like maybe not.
I Coach, I'm kind of the same way. I think there's uh it's tough because I do think do take the NIL money. I think, man, you're going to put this kid's face up all over every part of your brochure. He's on every college part of your college campus. You're using him, ESPN's putting him on for this and that, and they don't get compensated for it. Oh, that's kind of tough.
Yeah.
But so I'm glad that athletes are being rewarded for their part, which is the majority part of putting butts in seats.
For sure.
By all means, I'm glad that has happened for student athletes. How it happens, and the simple fact of you still have the haves and have-nots that can raise this kind of money and keep a student athlete here. I wish the playing field was a little more level.
Yeah.
But I think there's benefits to the NIL stuff. As far as the transfer portal, again, I think you're cutting out, but
Yeah.
it makes it hard. I'm not happy where I'm at, and man, I'm gone. I really think, and understandably so, right about the time the portal got going, was around COVID, and everything was cut off. And I couldn't, as a college coach, you can't get out into the gym and go see anybody. So those relationships maybe weren't formed the same way they had been. And kids were looking for spots to just go play. Let me go. Shoot, this isn't quite what I thought I was getting into. So it provided an opportunity for that. I made a hasty decision, or
Yeah.
my only decision, maybe, or whatnot. It provided them some of the opportunity to get out of that situation. I think the simple fact that, man, I'm just not happy and I'm out with no penalty. I guess I'm old school enough that I struggle with that a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I struggle because hey, coaches can jump. I get it.
Agreed. Yep.
You should be able to, like you said, hey, I was 17, 18. Maybe I shouldn't have done this or whatever, hasty decision. Should you be able to go to 8 schools in 4 years? No, that we might be getting silly. And what are we teaching our kids about just being tough? Stick with it.
Low resilience.
Endure. Yes, yes. Build that up. It's going to only help you in life. And I'm not asking you to do anything I wouldn't ask adults to do, but can we kind of teach a little bit? I don't know.
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
Agreed. Agreed.
Coach, we have seen a number of really good coaches in the college ranks, but basketball and football, leaving the game recently. Roy Williams, Mike Krzyzewski, Nick Saban, Jim Boeheim, Lon Kruger, the list goes on. Now, some of that, don't get me wrong, it's age, it's generational. That's just what happens. The new guard comes in. And yeah, some of it has to be some of the changes to their jobs, doesn't it?
And I think you've heard some of them even hint to that
You're
at
right.
different pieces of man, this isn't this isn't what I signed up for. This is becoming more than, you have to be able to do more than just coach it on the field, coach it on the court. You have to be able to manage all of the different aspects of recruiting now. Isn't just going and sitting in somebody's living room and asking you to come to school. Buy into me, buy into our program. Okay, but what am I getting? Right. And so I think maybe some of that has worn on coaches as in general, but again, that's also part of the competition, and it's a new part of competition, and maybe that I thrive on that. This gives me another avenue. So I think it's individual in terms of, I wouldn't lump all of those guys that have hung it up as, hey, it just got, too much for them or anything by any means.
Yeah.
But it has to wear on you. It's a different level of recruiting now.
Well, it's not enough to just be X's and O's guy. It's not enough to just be CEO guy. It's also got to be, I got to get in bed with this filthy booster. Sorry. That feels a little bit different. And there feels right now with the transfer portal, like we talked about, there's almost an AAU feel to college basketball right now, which I never saw that coming. I don't think I did never think it would be like that. Hey, I'm going to jump from this club to this club and this club to that just feels so weird to me.
Yeah. And the ease in which it can happen. Like you said, I think again, I'll reiterate, the one time, go.
Yes.
But you're now at school number 5. That's pretty tough. That's pretty tough.
And especially when, you see a guy go, he wins the national championship. He was the leading scorer. And he's like, no, I want to go somewhere. This isn't, you're not going to just sample every flavor. Like, can you stick with it a little bit? Seems just a little bit weird. Okay, Coach, I got to ask you, with your background, you're a basketball guy. Your life is centered around basketball. It has been for years. How tough is it for you to watch the NBA?
Oh, that. That's why you ask.
Yes,
you know
it
that. Man, amazing athletes. Amazing athletes.
Best athletes we've ever seen.
It is sometimes hard watching 5 guys play one-on-one. It is, it's, and watching again, kind of how the game has progressed. The old school bad boys and the physicality. I mean, again, I loved the physicality piece to it, the toughness piece to it. I think watching guys flail and complain, and man, it's hard. It is hard to say you're watching, man, that was a great basketball game. It was a display of great athleticism and guys putting the ball through the hoop. But I'm not sure that was a great basketball game.
Coach, you and I were texting the other night. Nuggets were playing the Lakers, and the Lakers are up 20 or whatever, and they roll it into LeBron, and he lets it bounce so the clock doesn't run. And I'm texting you going, Coach, does he understand why they do?
Right.
I know we're, like you said, we're a bunch of old heads, and this generation is better than any other generation. And yet some of the most basic points of the game that you taught your little league team.
Right.
Okay. Right. I'm going to get my blood pressure up. We're just going to move on. Coach, here in Denver, we are, of course, the defending, there they are, the defending NBA champions. It still sounds weird to say that the Denver Nuggets are champions of anything. And yet we are in a dogfight of a series with a young, scrappy Minnesota Timberwolves squad. I got to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who do you like going to the NBA Finals? Who's going to win this? Can these Nuggets do it again, or what's going to happen in the NBA?
I will tell you that this Wolves team is athletic at
Ooh,
every position, and they've got a bench. Nuggets bench. If they show up, I I still this is heart more than head, but I'll
it might
still
be.
take the Nuggets.
Yeah,
I'll still take the Nuggets if the Nuggets bench shows up,
fair.
um, and has to be able to match. You know, Conley plays like an all-star every time he plays the Nuggets.
I don't know why,
Um,
but he does.
I don't either, but they're such an athletic group. I think if the Wolves win this series, they're going to the finals. I just like, man, I like the Anthony Edwards is just he's coming into his own and he's doing it without trying,
Yeah,
if
you're
that
right.
makes sense. I mean, he's not. I'm just going to go play,
Yeah,
and it doesn't look like this is my year to make a name for myself. He just goes and plays. Um, I don't know. The Eastern Conference
still not
it's
very
hard.
good.
No, but it's hard not to. Uh, I think the winner comes from the West.
Yeah,
I do think the winner comes from the West.
yeah, I would agree with that. It's just the only hope, and this sounds bad, but the only hope for the East is that the West beats each other up, and they're just too
Yeah,
physically exhausted and too injured by the time they get there. Because the East, my goodness, Orlando
agreed.
and Cleveland, and I mean, they literally sent teams to the postseason that had losing records, and you're just going. Meanwhile, over in the West, every night is a
Three-way
war.
ties for yeah.
The Lakers were what, a 7 seed? Hey, don't get me wrong. Speaking of a clueless basketball team, but my goodness, the talent is there.
Right. No, that I mean, if the Lakers were in the East, they might come out of there.
You're right.
I
They
I
might.
might let them come out of there. I don't know.
Well,
I wish I had great insight and thoughts on the East, but I'm not as much of an NBA fan to even be able to speak too much. But I think it comes out of the West.
well, Coach, you have great insight because you won the Daily Dose Bracket Challenge in a year, I might add, that my bracket burned like it has never burned in my entire life. I It was such a strange tournament because we're going into it. We're going, it's wide open, it's wide open, it's wide open. Oh, it's going to go mostly chalk. Yeah, that makes perfect sense
Right.
because why would
Right.
we expect that? Well,
Exactly. No, it was a great year for it, and I do like the one and done part to
oh,
that
so
tournament.
good.
You know, the best of seven, the majority of times the best team is going to get that. But any given night, hey, go knock off that 2 seed, go knock off that 1 seed, and
NC
it makes
State
it
just
fun.
might sneak through.
Yep, yep.
Yeah. No,
No, it makes
it
it
makes
pretty
it special.
special.
Yeah, it really does. Coach, I said this at the top. We have been friends for decades. I want to thank you for coming into the Daily Dose. I've been hoping to get you on. I know you're a busy guy. You got a lot on your plate, but I genuinely I want to say thank you for making the time. I thoroughly enjoy just picking your brain. We're gonna have you back and just discuss, basketball, college basketball. I know that's your busy time of year, but we're gonna have you back and discuss a few other things, or just come in and talk, basketball history, because we could always do that as well.
Yes, sir. Look forward to it. Hey, I enjoyed the time and love getting a chance to catch up.